My last topic is talking about Charlotte Pertz's video of her dog Shady and being run by a friend of hers, Angela, who Shady is very familiar with and is comfortable with. So I think Shady's 7 or 8, and I assume she's been doing this unwanted behavior for a long, long time. It is possible to change these, but certainly if you catch them at the beginning, within, like just when it's percolating, it's going to be a lot easier to replace the unwanted behavior with another behavior that gives the dog the kind of self-gratification the dog is looking for with the unwanted behavior, but without it being counterproductive for the handler or for the teamwork. And, when I ask people, in general, I'll say, hey, how'd your trial go? I get the blow by blows, like, well, over this jump, my dog did this, and then blah, blah, blah. And then the contact, my dog did this, and then the weave pulls, my dog did this. And I'm like, okay, let me be more specific. How was your dog mentally and emotionally? That's what I'm really wanting to know, because I think anybody who's been doing agility, if you're on your second dog, you realize that, training the obstacles is a very small part of success in the agility field. And so I'm going to be just talking about Shady's mental state. And the great thing about this first video, I marked it as an announcement so that hopefully will show up at the top of this feed. And Charlotte, if you can share that video, or can you upload it to YouTube and share a link with me? Because I would really like to have this video accessible to people who are hearing this Q&A session. It will be advantageous for lots of people, because this is not a unique thing that is happening. So in this video is from November 17th. She uploaded it at 10:27 a.m. and it starts with Shady and Angela, just so you know. So I watched the beginning, dog, like from the beginning of the video all the way up to the start line. That is the part that I watched about, I don't know, 10 times. And I was trying to figure out, like, what exactly is Shady expressing? And I would have to watch it like 10 more times to make a better guess. But I feel like in some ways it looks like when, in this case, Angela, the handler, when Angela disconnects, that Shady is barking. And it's a response to this disconnection. And which is kind of funny that I didn't notice it right away, but then I started seeing, like, oh, there's some interaction happening here. There is real two-way communication. If you're seeing me look to the side, I'm actually looking at that video on my screen, a screen save, just the still video of it. And, I also noticed that Shady's looking at the video camera, so I assume that's Charlotte holding the video camera. I noticed this chest rubbing or chest holding, which feels like it's suppressing. I'm not sure it's even comforting, because as soon as the hand is released, Shady reacts. And at one point, when Shady starts barking, Angela releases her hand as though to release the pressure of that. So, the person there is the most likely person to understand what is going on with the dog. Is it positive excitement, positive arousal? Is it negative arousal? Is it like stress-based arousal? What is it? Is it impatience? Is it the dog wanting to communicate to the person? Is the dog saying, hey, you're not connecting with me? Or, is it just habit? Like, I don't think this early stuff was habit, but as they start moving towards the ring, I feel like that looks like a very rehearsed behavior, that this dog has entered the ring exactly like this for years. And it doesn't mean you can't change it, but you've got a habit now that you need to replace with a new habit. And my approach to that would be energy matching versus trying to suppress her, let's just call it enthusiasm, okay? Because I don't know if it's positive or negative. I couldn't really tell from the video. It doesn't look fearful to me. It looks impatient excited, but I don't know how much of it is positive and how much of it is negative stress. So I think, Charlotte, you're the one who knows that because you are there in the moment. But to me, it looks more like excitement, impatience, and habitual response or reactivity. I would call it a habitual reactivity to the trial environment. And I use that term reactivity, and I used it last week as well, because I think it's a word that helps us view these types of behaviors as something to be addressed. So if a dog, we normally think of reactivity as a dog that is going to react and, lunging at other dogs and growling and snarling or that type of thing. But, an overly friendly dog is reactive too, in my opinion. Like Dakota is reactive to the environment, to other dogs or whatever, that he wants to meet, not even dogs, people. He wants to meet people. So that is a type of reactivity. And once I thought of it as that, instead of he's just really friendly, then I started thinking, okay, I can work with this reactivity and train a behavior that to replace this, bouncing up on people. And he's actually done quite well with that. But back to Shady. So what I would do is I would be working her far enough away from the ring that I could use some mark buckets and not be accused of training at a trial environment. I would maybe do that 3 rear cross mark bucket drill, because that means that the handler is going to be out of sight for a moment as you rear cross behind the dog. Again, that's from this week's one-on-one coaching session. I would test that start line 6 inches in front of a mark bucket with 3 mark buckets in a row, and proofing handler motion. And if my dog couldn't do it outside the ring, away from the trial, I'm not sure I personally would be entering trials. I would be taking my dog to the trial site and working her around in that environment, far away to start, and then gradually moving closer. And I'd be training high energy, moving behaviors. You can call them tricks, kind of freestyle-y tricks. It can be energetic nose touches. It can be, anything that allows Shady to express this level of enthusiasm that she has, but to do it in a productive way. This is not an agility problem per se. This is an environment problem. So what she's doing in the ring is the same thing she's doing out of the ring. So that means you can actually work on this out of the ring. And in terms of feedback about running agility is, I don't think Shady likes the handler being really close. That seems to set her off. The rear cross, doing these rear cross drills, getting her really used to them away from the trial environment should help with that kind of spinning and barking. But, I think a lot of this is just kind of habitual, that she's already doing it outside the ring. So, and with any dog that when they have any kind of question or any kind of emotional state that evokes some sort of expression that is other than do the thing we're doing, I pretty much put a stop to that wherever it shows up in life. And so that dog, I would not let that dog, come in front of me and face me. I would be constantly calling him into heel position, rewarding. I would be conscientious about even feeding him in front of me. I would probably step into heel position and just really get disciplined about never rewarding the dog in front of me I'd give it like a good solid week and assess whether I thought things were getting a lot easier, which they most likely will. Like even for instance, walking down the hallway is make sure she's not at the end spinning back towards you. And if she is, call her back in heel position. So not only are you keeping her from being rewarded for doing what she wants to do, but you're also now developing a routine where she gets in front of you, she faces you, calls into heel position. Now you've got a behavior that you could take into the ring, right? Your dog, she comes ahead of you, boom, you bring her back into heel position. Instead of this kind of her jumping around and then, the handler having to deal with it. And then all this kind of chaotic motion, then the dog goes again and more of the same. So it's like Shady's kind of running the show. inside and outside of the ring. So I think she could respond quite well to some direction from you and anybody who's handling her that's consistent with what you're doing, which is she comes in front, boom, call her into heel, good dog, you continue. If she can't come into heel, I'd ask for a down, just a brief moment, and try again. But I mean, the good news, I think, is that this is not an agility related behavior problem. This is a environmental reactivity problem. So I don't know if that's going to make you happy, but I would say you could get some very good results working her in trial environments. Save your money and save yourself from the frustration, because if she's doing this at every trial and she's always done variations of this and it's getting worse, that's your feedback that the behavior is getting stronger and stronger versus subsiding over time. And all that mark work you're doing at home is at a different energy level. It's fantastic she's successful at that. But I'd also be trying to find ways to get her in a more amped up state so that she is having to work with those habitual reactions, so that she does come in front of you once and boom, you bring her back into heel. Good dog, you begin again. That thought of that transition from in front to heel, I didn't plan to say that, but the more times I hear myself say it, I'm like, that's a good idea. That's what I would do. I would definitely do that with my dog, if my dog were doing that. Chris is saying, forgive my naivete. I hope I pronounced it right. It's a big word. I don't understand rear crosses. Can you describe again? Yes, and thank you for asking the question. Not everybody in here is an experienced agility person. Chris is going to become an agility addict over time, but she is new to dog training and to agility. So a rear cross, and you will see it in this week's coaching session. You'll see examples in the videos that I've been referencing, that basically the handler and the dog, a cross means you're switching sides. So a blind cross, here's the dog, here's the handler, and I'm going towards the screen. So the handler's on this side. A blind cross, the handler's in front of the dog and switches sides here. Okay, so this is still the handler. So now a rear cross is the handler switches sides behind the dog. And what's cool about this is the dog, it needs to recognize the side change, right? So a blind cross, the dog sees the handler the whole time. And the rear cross, the dog has to feel the handler pressing on their dog's tail, really. You're right behind the tail. You're thinking about driving right behind the tail, whether you're there or not, so that the dog turns to look at the new side. It's one of my favorite things to train, the side chains, the rear cross side chains. So, and the front cross, I don't think I can do it without, confusing myself, because blah, blah, blah. And he didn't ask about front crosses. So check out those videos for sure. And, I noticed there were some new posts, and I glanced really quickly, and I loved, Celeste had some fantastic insights about the McNabb breed and what is evoking these type of expressions from Shady, and I thought they were brilliant. So I'm going to read those fully when I'm done with this Q&A, but I encourage you all to read them. And I encourage you all to be, several of you have done it in the past, and I didn't call you out on it because it was so, I should have to say, hey, please respond to each other's videos. That, I know that we all are in Ocean because we can see our dogs better than the average person. And we have insights and different histories and different, experiences with different breeds. So we all have something to contribute to each other. So thank you for reaching out like that, Celeste. And I know Karen has done so also in the past, and I'm probably forgetting somebody, but yay, keep doing that. And I think that is it. I guess, let's see, let me look at my notes. So the energy matching, it could even be kind of freestyle movement, keep her moving. Like with my high drive terrier, sitting quietly was not the thing that he needed to do before we ran. We did tricks. He had a sparkly eye. He was very punchy, and he had 100% attention on me. And did this eye contact before running create a dog that was not obstacle focused? No. My dog was as obstacle focused as he could be. But when we were getting ready, our teamwork was fully connected. I maintained a full connection to him. I didn't watch dogs run in the ring. I was just all there for him. And until, we were back in the car, we were connected. That was all I was paying attention to, is my dog. And I think Shady would respond really well to this too, because I encourage everybody to watch the beginning of this video very carefully. And it kind of looks like Shady saying, hey, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Where'd you go? And then it transitions into something else, this kind of habitual barking, and something else happens. But there's a few times I think Shady's going, excuse me, you just disconnected, in the way Shady does it. So, and the one other thing I noticed, and I was just watched the running of the video just once, so take this or leave it. But I don't think Shady likes the handler being really close. And that probably comes from the herding genetics, that not only does she not like it, but dogs are faster than people. So immediately the handler goes behind. The dog can't see the handler because they're not lateral, right? The dog can't see behind its head, can see, good peripheral vision. So the handler this close disappears very quickly. So that is going to frustrate a dog like Shady, who wants to stay connected, right? That feels like a loss of connection for her. So the rear cross training is going to help her with those brief disconnects. But the other thing that, now that I'm thinking about it, is the same advice I gave you about Bluebell, is plan your handling, plan the handler's path so that you are rarely invisible to your dog, meaning that you are rarely, like a rear cross, you are very quick to switch sides and you are back to being lateral. So in my first rear cross videos, you're going to see my students being very tight to the dog, and that's fine for step one, because you can meet the dog and reward the mark. But you'll see when I work with Dakota, I'm much more lateral. And that is because I want my dog to be able to see me. And that helps them stay forward focused, because they're like, I know based on history, she's going to reappear, versus where'd she go? Where'd she go? I better turn around and look. See what I mean? So lateral distance is your friend, especially for dogs that react to a disconnection, and they feel that you've made a disconnection when you are directly behind them and invisible. So let's see, I'm gonna just read. So Karen writes, my first border collie used to bark at me all the way around. It got less as I got faster and she knew where she was going. Less frustration. Yeah. So yeah, and a lot of dogs, especially if somebody has their first fast dog and they try to run the fast dog like they ran the slower dog, like trying to stay together, that yeah, dogs deal with it in various ways. So some dogs are going to bark, and some dogs are going to charge the handler, and some dogs are even going to bite the handler. Other dogs are just going to run off and grab obstacles, or just run off and do their own thing. They're going to go, this is just, what are you doing back there? So this class that I'm doing, I'm teaching a new intro group. And the very first thing they're learning is mark training, dog doing their job, handler doing her job. And they're going to be learning lateral distance, forward sends, commitment, pausing on mark buckets, all of those things that will take them as far as they want to go to agility, in agility. So instead of the typical beginner agility in most, class settings, is that the handler and the dog, they learn to do everything together. And that works great for people who never go beyond beginning to intermediate agility. But the people who get hooked and want to do it, there they are 2 years into the sport, and all of a sudden their dog is either slowing down, not enjoying it because they're hanging out together, or the dog is doing all this displacement stuff because it's frustrated that the handler isn't able to show them the course because the handler is too close to the dog. The path is too long. So that was a long, slightly off topic, but So Brenda's writing, the more lateral you are to your dog, the further ahead you appear to your dog. Yeah, you know, Paula Goss said that, like, God, I don't know, however many, 8 years ago. And yeah, I remember it to this day because, you know, it's not that you appear further ahead. If you actually just draw it out geometrically, you are further ahead. And, you know, if you like try it, just draw like a close handler path to a lateral distance path, and you will see that it's not an illusion. You are further ahead based on the dog's path. So I completely agree. And it's funny that lateral distance seems like very, oh, how am I ever going to teach my dog to let me be 5 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet away? When in fact, if you watch two dogs playing, they're not always right here. They do lateral distance quite well, and they do it like a school of fish. The parallel path is very natural for a dog. So it's more about, you know, teaching handlers early on that to see the picture of agility different than the way they may have seen it in their early classes. So that's why I'm super excited to start with a group of new students who they have not seen it that way. And they're going to see it the way that will take them to, you know, the sky's the limit from the beginning. So I'm super excited to, you know, to engage with these new students like this. So if there's no further questions, and if I sound a little discombobulated, I've been in a bit of a brain fog lately, and I think it's because, I don't know, could it be that COVID is like 8.5 months going on, and the monotony and not knowing what day of the week it is and not knowing what time it is and having to set alarms, or else I forget that I'm supposed to be doing stuff and going places. Maybe it's that. But anyway, so excuse me if I'm blah, blah, blahing over words in a weird way, saying the wrong words. I'm hoping that improvements will be underway shortly. So we'll see. Anyway, nice seeing you all as usual. And please check out that Rear Cross one-on-one coaching session and the new Mark Bucket replacement on course for distance and independent, also related to our topics in the Never Stop Learning module. And post wins, post successes, post your struggles, whatever it is. I love to hear from you. I ran into a few people in person, and it was so great to hear that people are getting so much, there's so much great stuff is happening. And prior to me running into them, I'm feeling like, what's going on out there? Are people like, you know, are they getting anything? Like, you know, how's it going? So it's from the perspective of the content creator, it is so important to get feedback. Otherwise, we don't know if what we're doing is valuable or not. So thank you all for the nice comments, and doing great. You're awesome. Thank you, Chris and Karen, and hope Mount Tam helped you clear some brain fog. You know, I don't know if it helped me clear some brain fog, but it certainly increased my appetite. I had a hearty lunch. But now the dogs are like, I didn't get to take them, long story, but now they're waiting for their moment in the sun. So I'm going to take them for a walk now. Anyway, look forward to hearing from you all in the Ocean Community Facebook group. And everybody stay safe, be well, and see you soon. Okay, bye.